What's going on, guys, and welcome back. I wanted to start this video by just saying thank you guys to everyone. The videos have done extremely well lately. Tons of views, lots of likes, lots of comments, lots of interaction, which is what I want from you guys, so thank you. Let's keep that ball rolling. Today's video, we're gonna talk about, I don't wanna say maintenance, but just kind of like a checkup. You know, everyone got their new sleds. We're finally starting to put some miles on them. What do we look for? Have any issues been kind of super common? What should I look for? What should I check? So we're going to touch on a couple things today. And obviously some of what we're going to go over is probably common sense. I shouldn't trip and fall on my little wheelie cart. But some things that we've learned. And again, these sleds, they did come in a little bit late. Not a lot of people got a ton of miles on them so far. So we're starting to see some things pop up that we need to start looking for. So that's what we're going to get into. You're going to notice that my sled does not have a rear suspension in it, which this is not part of the 400 or 500 mile service that you need to do. It's just part of my 400 or 500 mile service that I need to do because I am changing some things. If you see over here, there's a skid, but there's no shocks. So Bruce is revalving my shocks. We're going to try and get them to work a little bit better. And so we're all happy. Again, heavy duty torsion springs like we talked about in the last video. And that's really it. But with this being out, there's one thing that you can check. And again, I'm going to be checking them anyway because I had to pull them out. But that is your skid bolts. So there was an instance where I did see someone's skid bolts come out. I do not believe that the dealership took any bolts out of it for any reason. So that's something to check. The fronts are 217s, the nut on the inside, bolt head on the outside. And these are 215s, the rear ones. So the bolt actually goes from the inside out. So the nut is on the outside of them. Check them, make sure it is. And again, if you guys want to go through these things and nut and bolt them, sorry. We used to do that on the race sleds every time it went on the track and came back in. So never a bad idea to nut and bolt. You can nut and bolt the entire sled. We could start there. But what are you going to want to check? You're going to want to check carbides. Make sure, we don't have the most snow right now, so make sure that your carbides are still there. So that's, a good thing. You can nut and bolt your front end. Make sure, just do a visual inspection of all this stuff. Make sure nothing's falling off. Make sure nothing's loose. Again, if you want to put a wrench on every single one of these things, you're more than welcome to go ahead and do so. Aside from, just visual aspect and outside of the sled, that's really about it. Just, again, make sure nothing's falling off. Make sure that there's not oil leaking out of your shocks, because I have seen that. Not that it's super common at all, but it could be, make sure everything's inside where it's supposed to be. Make sure you don't have a bunch of play in anything. Listen, move the handlebars back and forth. Make sure nothing's bound up. Really, most of this video is going to be done inside this engine bay. So probably the main thing that I did want to touch on today, and if you guys are on the Polaris forums and everything, you'll see some guys that are pulling their muffler off because the coolant line down inside there that runs right along the starter, it's actually wearing into the coolant line. So the starter bracket is wearing into the coolant line. It's not on all of them. It's only on some of them. Painter Scotty, he's the one that informed me of it because his sled was doing it. So to get there, you have to pull the muffler off. So that's what I'm going to start with doing because I'm going to get inside the chain case on this anyway because I have 400 miles. They say to do it at 500. I'm a little rough on equipment, so I'm going to do it at 400. But so we're going to start by pulling this muffler off. You guys don't know how to do that. It's a treat. You need a good spring puller, which... this one's mine. Let me spin you around here so I can actually see what I'm showing you. This one is mine. It's super long. I've had this thing for many, many years, and it's a lifesaver because some of these springs, like that one underneath there, I don't even know if I can get to it, is not the most fun to get. Also, while you're here, you can check your coolant level, make sure that's still up to par. You check your brake. I mean, we got to pull all the brakes apart and everything like that to get inside that chain case. So, we'll check all that there. But I'm going to get this apart and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, so we are back. Got the muffler out. I forgot how much of a joy it is to get that suitcase out of there. This spring, I forgot to take out. It's tons of fun when you drop them in there. So it's 4 springs to hold it in, 2 that go to the main pipe or head pipe, 1 that goes over to here, and then 1 that goes from there to the backside. But anyway, so I'm gonna try and get in here, but it's gonna be really hard. And I don't need to take it apart because mine is actually good. But it's a mount behind that coolant line. Let me flip the camera, hold on. So it's a mount behind that coolant line. See that right there? And look, mine's super far away. But that mount on some of them is rubbing up against that coolant line and it will put a hole through it. So I have a good, probably 3/8 of an inch, so I'm not worried about it. But like I said, some sleds, like Scotty's sled, he had to, take these mounts off. He had to take the starter off the bracket, move the starter out of the way. You actually have to grind that bracket down to not come in contact with that. So I know that's a pain. I'm not sure if Polaris is doing anything about it, if he brought it back to the dealer or whatnot, but, I would just do it or check it at least just to make sure so you're not left stranded on the side of the trail, because that is never what anyone wants to do. Again, I'm going to be coming in here. I'm going to be taking all the brakes off, but pads and everything look good, even though I'm super hard on them. They look good. Rotor looks a little beat up, but that'll be okay. So again, I got to take everything out. And while you guys are doing this, sorry for my finger in the way of the camera. When you guys are doing this, the best thing that you could do is to wipe everything down as you go through it. So like I'm going to, here, once I shut the camera off, I'm going to wipe everything out, especially once I get this battery tray and everything out. Clean it all down, make sure it's all nice and, sparkly clean, because, these things do take a beating and they do get dirty. So even though we're in snow and, clean snow, I guess you'd say most of the time, it's not always clean. So what am I going to do on the clutch side? So the clutch side, I'm going to end up taking the belt off. I'm going to inspect the belt, make sure nothing's wrong there. Spin the clutches. I'm going to clean all inside here, just like I did on the other side. I'm going to, again, just make sure everything looks like it's visually inspect it. We're not going in, sleds only have 400 or 500 miles on it. So I'm just going to go in here, take that belt out, again, inspect that, clean everything in there. I'm going to take an air hose, pressurized air hose, air gun, and I'm going to spray in here, get all the belt dust out of there, because the belt dust is the worst thing for them to just sit in there. So spray all in, your crevices and everything, you blow everything out. So that's what I'm going to do on this side. I'm not going to take them apart. It's, it's not worth it for me to take it apart. But again, just visually inspect. Keep it clean, guys. These things are, we're out in the middle of no man's land and, in the freezing cold. We want to make sure that these things get us home safe and in one piece. So that's the biggest key ticket for this. So, this side's going to be pretty simple. This side, again, battery tray out, caliper off, rotor off, sorry, geez Louise. Make sure you pay attention to all your spacings here. If you're going to do this yourself, that's if you're sending it to the dealer, you don't have to worry about any of this. But make sure there's spacings here. There's a bushing back there. There's all stuff, which I'll get into once I get in there. But that's it. So I am one of the lucky ones. I do not have to worry about that, which makes me very, 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 very happy, man. So I'm gonna get to cleaning a little bit and start pulling this side apart. Okay, guys, so we are back at it. I obviously have done some work while I was not videoing. I got the battery tray out, the battery out, the chain case cover off so I could look inside that. And again, if you guys have never done this, there's a couple things to know. One, this bolt for your caliper is a real pain to get to. It's a 15 millimeter. There's 2 of them, but to get behind it when everyth's set up is kind of a pain. Make sure to check, again, all your spacings and everything. There's also a O-ring that goes on right here. So there's gonna be a spacer that slides on that goes into the cover, and then that when you pull that out, there's an O-ring there. Make sure to get that O-ring out or that cover's never gonna come off. That being said, how do you get the cover off? Because once you get it off, you can't slide it up because it hits the pan down here. Well, there's 2 T40 torque spits that hold this belly pan in that you have to take out so you can push it down and then rotate it around, and then it'll come right out. So now that we are in here, we could check chain. The oil was extremely metal flaky, and I haven't touched any setting yet. So just goes to show you guys, how much this stretched in 400 miles. So this is normally like a 500, 600, 700 mile thing, or a 500 to 600 mile checkup. But because I was already in here to check the coolant hose, I figured I would just do this now. Again, extremely loose. So I'm gonna go ahead and break this jam nut loose. And this is finger tight, and then you back it off just like almost like an 1/8 to a 1/4 turn, just so it's not super tight, because then it'll be really noisy. So that's really the only reason for the 1/4 off. But don't put a wrench on that. You're not tightening it to a certain spec. It's just hand tight. And I'll go over that in a little bit. So I'm gonna break that loose. This washer has an O-ring on it too, so make sure to pry that off it so you don't get a false reading. That's more importantly when the case is still on, or the cover is still on, when you can't see the chain or feel the chain, but that's just a rule of thumb. So loosen the jam nut, pry that apart so you don't get a false reading. I actually got over 2 full turns out of it, but now it's super tight. So I'm just gonna back this off a little bit. I'm gonna tighten that jam nut up. You can hold your adjuster bolt while you do that so it doesn't tighten it again, obviously. But that's pretty much it inside the chain case. Everything looked good. There was no giant chunks or anything. Yes, the oil was flaky. There was definitely metal shavings in it, but that's just normal. Everything was brand new, from the factory prior to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and back this up. I'm gonna tighten everything up, and I'm gonna get this thing back together. But other than that, everything looked good. Brake pads look good. I know you guys know I'm hard on them. Brake rotor definitely got some heat in it. You could tell how nice and shiny it is. There's that O-ring in the washer. And again, just clean everything. I already wiped everything down in this engine bay, which is why it still looks so clean. The battery tray just got washed, so I'm gonna put it back together nice and sparkly clean. Okay guys, chain case and everything's back together. That's probably gonna wrap up this video. As you can see, the project, and Nash has been here helping all along. The project has escalated quite rapidly after talking with Bruce about suspension and stuff. So that's all apart, but I will get this all back together. I just wanted to touch base on what you guys should look for in your first ride, or your first kind of checkup, 400, 500, 600 mile checkup. If you have any questions about what else you should look for, or anything that's kind of out of the ordinary, put it in there. I mean, it's nice that I have the front shocks off now. I can run this through its motions and everything like that, and make sure that nothing is hanging up or anything like that, or making any funky noises. So clean the clutches, keep the sled clean, nut and bolt it. I went through and I did every single nut on here, just because that's who I am and how I am. But really wanted to get inside that chain case, really wanted to check that hose. That's a big thing, guys. Make sure to look at that. So that's probably gonna do it for this video, guys. Again, if you have any questions, always put them in the comments. I will get back to you guys, but I hope this helps some of you guys, look over your sled. And again, keep them clean, keep them tight. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.